What happens when one of Hollywood's toughest stars sits down with daytime television's most beloved host only to find out she's not who he remembered? When Mark Wahlberg appeared on the Drew Barrymore Show to promote his latest film, he expected an easy interview. What unfolded instead was a confrontation so intense, it shook both their reputations and left audiences stunned. It began like any other morning at the studio in New York. Mark had flown in from Boston to discuss his new gritty crime thriller, a project already earning Oscar buzz. The interview with Drew was scheduled as the lightest stop on his press tour, a feel-good chat with an old friend. He arrived early, dressed casually in dark jeans and a black tee under a leather jacket, confident and relaxed. The team greeted him warmly. Coffee, pastries, cheerful energy, it all felt routine. The makeup artist, Sarah, touched up his face as they chatted. "Drew's really looking forward to seeing you," she said with a smile. Mark had done her show twice before. Both times had been pleasant, even fun. But this time, something was off. During the pre-interview meeting in Drew's office, the vibe shifted immediately. Her smile was stiff, eyes glued to her phone. She didn't stand to greet him. "Mark, darling," she said coolly, gesturing for him to sit. The warmth she was known for was missing. Mark kept it professional. "Thanks for having me back. Excited to talk about the film." But Drew wasn't interested in small talk. "I've been doing some research on your film," she said. "And I have concerns." He raised an eyebrow. "What kind of concerns?" "The violence," Drew said, leaning forward. "Don't you think Hollywood has a responsibility to consider the impact of such graphic content? Especially given your past?" The room went cold. Mark had long been transparent about his troubled youth and his journey to redemption. He'd never shied away from those conversations. But now, that story was being used against him. "The film doesn't glorify violence," Mark said carefully. "It explores consequences. It's about choices and redemption." Drew scoffed. "Redemption? That's convenient, isn't it? You get to profit from the same themes that once defined your real life." Mark's jaw tightened. "If you want to talk about the film, I'm happy to. But if this is going to be some kind of ambush, or maybe we should skip the interview." "Oh, we'll talk," Drew replied, her smile sharp. "Just don't expect softballs." Mark stood, his instincts on high alert. "If you're coming at me with an agenda, let's be clear about that now." "This is journalism, Mark," she said flatly. "You host a daytime talk show, Drew. You're not Bob Woodward." The jab landed. Her face flushed. "You think you're too good for daytime television? I think I deserve the same respect I've shown you. And right now, you're not giving me that." "Let's talk about how you've built a career on playing tough guys," Drew said, rising. "While whitewashing your past to make yourself marketable." "My past is just that, of the past. I've never hidden it. I've made amends. I've spent decades trying to be better. Or maybe," she said coldly, "you've just learned how to play the game better." Mark didn't respond right away. He looked at her carefully, saw something bitter behind her eyes. "Let's finish this on air," he finally said. "Let your audience decide who's being real." "Perfect," Drew replied. "I wouldn't want it any other way." The lights came up. The audience clapped, unaware of the war brewing beneath the surface. Mark smiled. But there was tension in his jaw. Drew greeted him with her usual energy, but Mark could now see through it. It was all performance. "So, Mark," Drew said, her voice bright and biting. "Your new film pretty violent, huh? It's a crime thriller. It reflects reality. Reality like the one you lived? You know, the one that landed you in jail?" A few audience members shifted in their seats. This wasn't what they expected. Mark's tone was steady. "I've talked about my past many times. I was a kid. I made mistakes. And I paid for them. 30 years ago, Drew said, leaning forward. And yet here you are, glorifying that same behavior on screen. Isn't that hypocritical? Mark narrowed his eyes. The movie doesn't glorify anything. It shows consequences. Maybe you should watch it before passing judgment. Oh, I watched it, she said. And it's just Mark Wahlberg playing another thug. Seems like you can't escape your past. What's your point, Drew? Are actors not allowed to play roles anymore? Are you saying people can't change? I'm saying, Drew snapped, some people don't change. They just get better at hiding. Mark stood. His chair scraped loudly across the floor. Excuse me. But Drew pressed harder. Did I strike a nerve? Is the tough guy act just that to an act? Or are you still the same person who committed hate crimes? The audience gasped. Silence fell. Mark turned back, his voice low. I've never hidden from my mistakes. I've tried to help others avoid the same path. You don't get to turn my honesty into a weapon. Honesty, Drew said with a bitter laugh. Or just a good narrative? Mark raised his voice. I've mentored kids, supported communities, worked to be better. You don't know anything about that. You're too busy tearing people down. Drew's face twisted. Maybe some people don't deserve redemption. Mark's voice softened. Then what hope does anyone have? She didn't answer. The studio was silent. You used to believe in second chances, Mark said. What happened to you? For a moment, Drew looked shattered. But she pulled herself together. That person grew up. No, he said. That person had heart. This person. I don't recognize. Mark picked up his jacket, then paused. You know what? I'm not done. He turned to the audience. This isn't entertainment. This isn't journalism. It's cruelty. I came here to talk about a film about growth, about redemption. And instead, I was ambushed. This is my show, Drew said, her voice shaking. Your show that you've just destroyed, Mark said. Look at your audience. Drew glanced around and saw faces filled with shock, sadness, and betrayal. You used to inspire people, Mark continued. Now you shame them. He turned back to the crowd. I don't regret my past. I regret the harm I caused. But I wouldn't trade the journey that taught me compassion and resilience. He looked into the camera. If you're struggling, if you think you can't change, you can. You don't have to stay where you are. Growth is real. Redemption is possible. Drew was crying now. Whether from guilt, anger, or grief, it was impossible to tell. Mark faced her one final time. Drew. I hope someday you remember who you used to be. Because that person was worth knowing. Drew tried to speak, but no words came. Mark turned, walked off stage, and didn't look back. The audience sat frozen. No applause. No laughter. Just silence. In the green room, Sarah approached Mark quietly. That wasn't the Drew I know. Mark nodded. Sometimes people lose themselves. Will you come back? If she finds her way back to who she was, a maybe. Outside, the morning was bright and cold. Mark walked away from the studio, unsure whether what had just happened was a breakdown, a betrayal, or both. But one thing was clear, something in Drew Barrymore had changed. And the world had just seen it. Within hours, the clip would go viral. Analysts would dissect every moment. Drew's reputation would unravel. And her show's future? Uncertain. But for Mark Wahlberg, the real tragedy wasn't the confrontation. It was watching someone forget what it means to be human.